To understand the Kurukshetra War, we usually start with its immense physical scale. We see the bronze chariots, the towering horses, and the mobilization of millions. This was a conflict that leveled entire kingdoms, leaving behind a legacy of absolute physical ruin that has defined ancient history for millennia. Yet, a detonation of this magnitude rarely begins on the battlefield. It doesn't ignite spontaneously among the rank and file. The true origins of the Mahabharata lie in the quiet architecture of the human mind, where a single point of friction sets a civilization ablaze. If we want to find the real source of the carnage, we have to look past the iron swords and analyze a family's psychological collapse through the lens of ego, deceit, and revenge. The first threshold was crossed during a game of dice. This was no accident of fate, but a cold, deliberate trap designed to strip the Pandavas of their power through deceit rather than combat. The losses compounded with ruthless efficiency. Their wealth, their sovereign kingdom, and finally the personal freedom of the brothers themselves were all systematically dismantled in a single afternoon. At this stage, the conflict mutated. It was no longer a standard political dispute over borders. It had become a deeply personal violation. The Kauravas then crossed the ultimate moral threshold. They chose to publicly humiliate Draupadi in the royal court, treating a queen as a trophy of their victory. This act of public disrespect introduced a volatile element of revenge into the conflict, a deep-seated psychological wound that would haunt every future attempt at reconciliation. When personal dignity is targeted, the participants lose their capacity for objective reasoning. The door to a simple political solution begins to swing shut. Years later, the Pandavas returned from exile with a surprisingly restrained proposal. Despite the scars of their humiliation, they sought a peaceful resolution to avoid a total war. They offered a final off-ramp. In exchange for their entire stolen empire, they asked for only 5 small villages. It was a logical, diplomatic effort to prevent mass casualties. But the Kauravas were operating inside an ego echo chamber. They had spent years convincing themselves of their own invincibility, blinding them to the reality of the disaster ahead. They refused to yield even a needlepoint of territory. This marked the absolute failure of diplomacy, as pride overrode any remaining sense of self-preservation. Their unchecked arrogance led to a fatal miscalculation. They saw the Pandavas' desire for peace not as a gesture of wisdom, but as a definitive sign of weakness. When genuine diplomacy is met with that level of ego-driven inflexibility, the resulting friction makes a catastrophic collision the only remaining trajectory. The inevitable result of those failed negotiations was the massive, chaotic mobilization at Kurukshetra. Thousands of lives were funneled into a claustrophobic reality of combat. The years of accumulated deceit and unavenged insults finally detonated, transforming into unstoppable physical violence on the battlefield. The war ended in total, tragic devastation for both sides. The technical victory for the Pandavas was overshadowed by the reality that their entire family had been hollowed out. The most dangerous weapon of mass destruction in human history is cultivated within the mind long before it is forged in iron. The Mahabharata begins with human ego, not with swords. Follow for more deep dives into the mechanics of history.